What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Behind the Visor. We're back again. Got another special episode with my guy, Adrian Greene. I don't even know what to say, man. You had an amazing season last year, tied for the league lead in picks with your boy. A couple others out there, but we always love to see the Canadians making big moves and fresh. I don't even think has the ink even dried yet from this contract you just signed.
Just did it last night, so yeah, just got to it, bro.
Okay. Well, what kind of what went into sign the extension? I think, what is it, through 2028?
Yeah, through 2028. So essentially, it was like, talking with my agents, kind of evaluating things. Calgary presented an extension opportunity for me, and obviously, like I feel like going through last season and just seeing how I've been progressing as a player, like I feel like growing in Coach Slowick's defense was like a thing for me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, let me ride it out and see where it can go. Like I'm really like, we're building in that room and we're building on that team and stuff like that. So it's a nice spot for me to, call home for a little while now.
Yeah, man, that's big time. Are you out in Calgary right now? Or are you back in?
Yeah.
Because you're from Toronto originally, right?
Yeah, I'm from Toronto. I ended up staying out here for the off season, Jalen Philpott's out here, so we got some good work. Like Dietrich Mills stayed out here too. So
Yeah.
it's a couple of O linemen, D linemen, other guys as well. But we got a pretty solid group out here. And I was just like, you know what? Let me lock in the off season. I had my group back home that was smooth to be, Keandre on your team. He's out
Yep.
there. Kayon, Julian Grant was out there too. So I couldn't go wrong either way, but I'm just like, let me stay out here for Calgary for a little bit. I like it out here.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. No, but like, kind of continuing on that, like, obviously your story is a different one, right? Like, took the long road to get here. Tell us a little bit about your story and the come up from SMU in the AUS days, and like what led to you going out there initially.
Oh, coming out, honestly, when I came out of high school, I was like probably like 5'10", 150. So I was light in the pants.
Mm-hmm.
But I could move and stuff like that. I had honestly, like most of these sports schools were pretty interested in stuff like that. Like I had a lot of recruitment in Canada, states wise. I had like a couple of junior colleges, some like D3, D2. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of going through my recruiting process. I mean, Cozy, he coached you out in UBT for a little bit, so
Yep.
he kind of presented it to me like, "Hey, man, like I feel like as my defensive coordinator, my cornerbacks coach, and my head coach, everything was gonna kind of go through him. And I mean, his resume spoke for itself. And I was going through my evaluation of like, who do I want to be coached by, and like who do I feel like can prepare me as a corner and as a defensive back to go pro. Along that tied in with my scholarship offer, I was like, you know what? Let me just take the chance and go
Yep.
up there because my older brother was at Regina at that time, so he was there from 20. I think his first year was 2013, I believe.
Okay.
But he played at Regina for 5 seasons. And then just talking to him about it, watching him go through the process. Like he actually went JUCO first before he went there. He went to a school in, where was it? Iowa. He went to a
Okay.
junior college in Iowa. So watching him go through the recruiting process before me and everything like that, just him kind of guiding me, helping me out. He's like, man, just go to St. Mary's. Like at the end of the day, if you're good enough to go pro, you'll make it happen. So
Yeah.
that was kind of that aspect. And then when I got to St. Mary's, I'm hearing like the whispers of like AUS guys and how is it gonna look trying to come out of there and everything like that. But then, I see like I went to the same high school as Kayon.
Yeah.
He's a little bit older than me, but just like seeing guys like that, you know, get out of the AUS and start to make a push for their pro career, I was like, you know what, let me just stick it out. And then shoot, like I got hurt a little bit in college. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of affected, like the accolades, like the All Stars and the All Canadians and stuff like that. But I didn't give up no touchdowns in college. Uh, I gave up under 100 yards in all the seasons I played there. Like I don't mean like season by season, like total. Um, so in my mind, I was like, at the end of the day, like guys like Trey and Tyrell, I played against them when we was younger. like all these names, like big names I was in the draft and combine and stuff. I'm like, like these guys are guys that I played against the summer football from when we were little kids, right? So I'm like, it's gonna be the same thing, just another step. So when the combine list came out and there was like, you got to go to the regional, I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Just show them what I can do, kind of thing. And then I just told myself, I'm like, just make sure you get to the national, and then once you get to the national, same thing, make sure you get drafted.
Right. Right. Man, that's a crazy story. Like no touchdowns given up in college is I don't think I can say that I've ever done that. I've given up a couple. Learned from my mistakes definitely, but man, like that is an accolade to have. But I think that kind of resonates in the way of, like you said, like you played with these guys, right? Like the Tyrell Fords, the Trey Fords, and you're capable of like competing on the same level. It's just like you just need that opportunity, and like getting that opportunity through the Invitational Combine, and then ended up in BC. I know probably like, I mean, how was that? Like that part of your career, like starting out in BC, playing with vets like Gary Peters, TJ Lee, and learning from guys like that. Like, what was that experience like for you?
It was interesting because when I first got to BC, there weren't any Canadians playing
Mm-hmm.
in the secondary. It was all American, and you know, when I got there was some Canadian DBs on the team and stuff like that. And I just like my first thing getting to camp was like, all right, first step is just make the team, like figure out how I can make the team. And obviously, like special is a big part of that. And Coach Diano at the time, he had come up to me when I first got up there. He's like, I'm gonna give you a chance to make this team, and it's gonna be through specials to start.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how like the specials drill work is in your first year, you working extra hard and everything like that, and then once you start to pick that up, it's like, all right, well, how can I elevate my game on defense as well? And like you said, you're watching like Gary Peters, TJ Lee, um, Delvin Bro was on that team as
Yep.
well.
Y'all had
Luches
Bro too for a
Purifoy.
bit.
Like there's a bunch of guys, you know what I mean? I could just sit there and pick apart their brain and then just watch them on film and watch just how they move and like their different nuances in the game and stuff like that. I'm just like I'm just gotta find all these things and try to add them to my game as best as possible. So when it really came down to it, you do mini camp first, and then we also had to strike my first year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna lie, that helped me out a little bit with my legs. Like I felt like when we started back up again, I had some fresh legs after a rookie mini camp or whatever at the start. Um, but it was really just I took a phone call the other day and I just talked about it. Like for me, it was really all right, who's the best in this group, and how can I make myself get to that level? And
Mm-hmm.
how am I gonna catch up to that and then pass it? You know what I mean? And that's kind of like been my approach everywhere I went. It was always like, let me find the best guy in the room
Right.
and try to beat them.
Right. So like initially, like did you get to not choose, but like was it like, hey, you got to play free safety, like that's your way on the field, and you just were kind of like, hey, I'll play. I mean, I know I was the same way. Like whatever position y'all give me, like get me on this field. That's what it's gonna take.
Well, actually, when I first got there, they had me at field corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't take reps anywhere else my first year. I stayed at field corner the whole time, and I didn't get activated. I was on PR the first 9 weeks or so. Then there's like a couple injuries in the secondary, so they like shuffled people around. Then I got activated on specials, and then as the season went on, I'm getting better, still learning stuff like that. Then we put in dime, and then we were only dressing. We were dressing six, like the six starters, and I was like the seventh emergency DB.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ryan Phillips at the time, he was just like, everybody has to be versatile. You got to play all. I mean, we got 7 DBs going into the game, so if anybody gets hurt, you plugging and playing. It's a plug and play kind of thing. So I was doing the dime stuff on the field corner every time we called dime towards the end of the season, and then it wasn't until my second year coming to training camp, I didn't even know until I got there. He's like, you know what? He's like, you got good range to your game. Like I'm gonna move you to safety, and then if I'm being 100% honest, like it was like I maybe took maybe 3 snaps in college at safety when somebody got hurt. But besides that, like I was playing corner pretty much my whole life. Like,
Right.
obviously play offense and stuff like that growing up, but I was playing corner. So, well, gotta figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm just talking with some of the guys that have been there for a little bit, like TJ. Marcus Sales was still on the team at that time. just talking to those guys, and the guy who started the season in front of me, Quincy Mosier, just watching him
Yep.
play and just talking to him about his thought process behind everything. Eventually I got into that starting role, and then second game I got a pick. We were playing Winnipeg at home, and just kind of took off from there with it. Ran with it from there.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Like whenever you get that first one too, it's like it's so weird because when you don't have a pick, I mean, it's no different than if you start the season off and you're trying to get your hands on the ball, it just isn't happening. But when you're young in your career, like that first year that you get in, it's like, man, I just need to get that first pick on the board, and then from there, it's like the floodgates open. So I still remember.
100%.
You'll always remember your first pick. Did they let you keep the ball, or was it one of the chip balls?
Uh, did I keep that one? I don't even think I keep. I don't know where that ball is. I
Oh,
have
that
no
first
idea. I
one, you
don't
gotta
think
figure that out. You gotta get that one back.
I do. I gotta talk to the EQ guys over at the BC. I don't even know. I don't know. I don't. Do I might. I might have it. Actually, no. Yeah, I do have that. I do have. They painted it for me.
Okay,
I did get it.
there we go. And it was on Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Zach
there we go.
Caleros.
Yeah, you gotta love that. That's when your first pick is like on a future Hall of Famer. That's money. Mine was on Trevor Harris, my rookie year. So
Exactly. Same concept, right?
yeah, like you get in there and you make the play, and it's like, okay, and I picked off this dude. Like at that time too, though, it was like Trevor Harris was kind of like he was, he had just gotten to Montreal, and like he wasn't really getting the respect anymore that he had when he was back in Ottawa, and I think he had just came from Edmonton or something like that. So like already, like if you look back on then compared to now he's Grey Cup champion. He's like one of the most accurate passers ever in CFL history.
Right.
So that that ball is it's getting some value right now.
It's a money ball for you. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I need to get him to sign that one for sure before he exits the league. But man, I gotta ask this because this is something we always I'm not gonna say I was jealous of this, but y'all had. And I don't know if you could tell me, but y'all's your little DB thing where y'all hit your little like whatever it was this, and then the straps were like the speed thing. Like what was that? Y'all you gotta fill me in on what that was, because we would see that and we would kind of be like, that's not cool. But like deep down, you knew like y'all had something cool going.
No, I don't even remember how it started. I think so. I mean, everyone was throwing up the X and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I first got there, and that was like the thing for like 2022, and then 2023 came around. And this happened at, I don't know if it was training camp or like early in the season. Somebody, you know what? Gary Peters gonna watch this and be like, "AG, why don't you tell everybody it was me?" So I don't think I still don't think it was him. I think it was Manny Rugamba, and even him. I don't want to give him the credit either, but it was somebody threw it up first, and then we kind of like they just threw up the arrow first, and then we kind of just put a spin on it. We're like, we got to throw up the arrow and then clamp it down on that. Like we got to add some swag to it. So
Yeah.
that was kind of like a group decision, like the second part of it. But we started killing the guys at practice. Receivers were looking at us. So some of them didn't like it, but behind doors, and club, like, man, that's tough. It's tough.
That's what I'm saying. Like we would see it on TV, and like I mean, GP is one of the main dudes that I would always see doing it. Obviously I'd see yourself doing it, and TJ Lee, but like GP had it down, whatever the swag was to it, and I knew like we would see it, and we're just like, man, like, nah, that's not cool at all. Like, what are they doing? Like, but like I said, like deep down, you're like, I think we were just jealous that we didn't have a signature thing like that we were doing.
100%. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I remember too, even when we played Sask, man, they came with the game super explosive.
Yeah.
Like Emilus had a big catch, and that was like one of the first things he did. He threw the arrow.
Yeah, he did the mock. He did the mock. He mocked it. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, it's gonna be one of those games. And then just kind of wrote out like that from there.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. So like what made you go from BC to Calgary, like that initial, obviously you had your last year there, and then you ended up in Calgary this past season. What kind of went into the decision-making process of making the jump there?
It was just free agency stuff, bro. But I was just like evaluating. I mean, at the end of the day, you only get to play football for so long, bro. So you got to try and get it while you can. And just, going through like different options, like where BC saw themselves having me playing, and money's a part of it too.
Yep.
With 100% transparency, like, you just evaluate everything. And I feel like Calgary had the best plan for me
Right.
in my career. And honestly, VA was a big part of my recruitment.
Oh, he's recruiting.
About once he got traded over here, and then free agency was probably like a month before free agency. He called me, he's like, man, what are you gonna do with free agency?
Yeah.
And I said that, I'm not really sure yet. We got this team and that team, and he's like, man, just get to the window. Just
Get to the window.
Yeah. So I got to the window, and then I ended up following him here.
Yeah, man. Like, I think that's what a lot of people like forget too. Is like, yeah. We're football players, but like we're human beings, and like we have priorities too. At the end of the day, right? Like, you want obviously the best fit. You want to, for the most part, maximize the finances as much as possible, because we know football is not forever. Especially at this level, right? Like, I think the average career is probably like 2.5, 3 years. So maximizing that value. And then also, I think a little bit of it too is betting on yourself, right? Like, I think that plays into that part of it, right? Like, you see the best fit, you see the best, finances, but then like on your own end, it's like, okay, like, where can I go where I know it's going to set me up, to launch me forward, on a trajectory standpoint. So, I mean, betting on yourself is huge. And then, I mean, you look at how that translated into last season for you. I don't think anyone probably, was thinking that you'd be like All-CFL in the West Division, arguably could have been All-CFL across the league. Unfortunately, like, we know how stuff gets voted on and those type of things. I got to support my guy Jamal though. That's my teammate.
100%, man. He did his thing too.
But man, like, I think it's a testament to like your work ethic, and I think on your end too, it's like you probably had another 4 games that you didn't play. I know you got kind of nicked early in the season, but like, you throw in those extra games, who knows? Who knows? But I think it all probably, we could say it worked out, for the right reasons. But I think now that you have that, that status, as an All-CFL player, like one of the top corners in the league, like, what do you think it was that clicked for you like so well this year? And obviously you were back at field corner, like kind of in probably one of those more comfortable positions, but what do you think clicked for you the most?
Man, just trusting what I'm seeing. I feel like, in just, I mean, as a safety, like, sometimes you got, like, say you got a post dig, and that post is there. Just trusting like your depth and driving the dig, because that's where the ball is going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that taking the fear out of it of like, oh, if I drive the dig, maybe don't throw the post. And I remember, I forget, I think you guys were playing Winnipeg. Like, there one time you did the opposite. Like, you drove the dig and speed turned out. And then you end up getting a pick on the post. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, that shit was raw. But it's just like the concept of just honestly just trusting yourself and just going. I think that was probably the biggest step I took in making more plays. And, just having a group around me that's pretty consistent. Like, my halfback was super consistent all year. I had Derek Moncrief at Sam, and he was super consistent. He affect what's going on in front of me a lot as well. So I played a part in it too. I can't sit here and take all the credit for it. You know what I mean? Because having him in front of me played I would say a big part in my playmaking this year.
Right. Do you think, like, I mean, from the target position, like, do you think because most all the quarterbacks were used to you playing free safety, they maybe thought like, oh, this guy can't play field corner, like, let's test him and see if he's actually able to do it?
I mean, I probably, honestly, at the end of the day, like, teams are gonna tip, especially if you're in a new spot. Like, when we played you guys in Warren, I got probably, I think I got like 80 targets that game.
They were going after you with Kenny, man. I don't know what it was. But you had a great like PBU that game. I think like deep in the end zone. I think there was a big shot to Kenny, and like you broke the ball up, and I was like, that dude's legit, man. Like, don't think just because he's out there at field corner, like he's not out there messing around.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, the targets are gonna come, and just really just comes down to making a play on the ball, honestly. Whether what teams scheme up and stuff like that, and how they approach the game, obviously, like, football IQ wise, like, if you're in a quarters coverage, the soft spot's like a hit to the field. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Especially if you're in like a 32 set and two screaming down the field, like that's naturally going to be like a soft spot. So I think when play calls line up, naturally you're going to get some targets, but even more so if you're a guy in a new spot or you're in a spot that people aren't used to you seeing, then quarterback's going to take a chance and try and throw it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like going into that like football IQ side, like was there something that you were studying on film now that maybe you weren't like early on in your career, or just like how's your football IQ developed, do you feel like, since you got into the league?
I feel like seeing receivers' tempos and kind of uh how should I say, analyze when you're getting like a clear out versus like somebody's running a true route. You know, like when you're
Mhm.
getting ran off, I feel like sometimes you'll stick to a route. Like earlier in my career, I would stick to a route longer, thinking like, oh, this guy's going deep. You know, I gotta stay high. But if, you know, if you can read his tempo and kind of see his body language, it's like, all right, let me get a little bit higher earlier. So I'm taking the throw away from the quarterback and then reading the routes behind it to see who's really running, you know what I'm saying? Who's really running, trying to get the ball. You can see like stuff like that. I started to see it a lot more
Yeah.
and just kind of like seeing receiver splits, formation tendencies and stuff like that. And honestly, it's like route combos say like curl flat, like the curl flat combo. You're gonna get that to the field a lot when you're in like 41 and the back's to you. And to that quarterback's like if it's a right-handed quarterback, it's to the right-hand quarterback side. You know what I mean? You're gonna get that a lot. So it's just like seeing the position on the field. So to answer your question, I would say, yeah, like I feel like IQ wise in general, just understanding the game and seeing things a lot slower. It takes time, but it kind of clicked.
Yeah, it's almost like I mean, it's like this at every level, right? But like the game definitely slows down the more reps you get. And each year you're in it, it's like it feels like it slows down a little bit more, and like you could see things sort of before they happen. Which I think when you turn on like some of your film and you watch some of the plays that you made this past season, it's like one, yeah, like you were most of the time it was just not most of the time. Sorry, I think the one pick that I saw that sticks out to me, I think, is the pick six. Was it in Toronto? Where it's like you're kind of like shuffling out, like you're in my head. It looks like you're trying to show like you're a high player, and then you break on the ball like as soon as it's thrown, like whether that's to the film study or just your intuition, and then the ball gets a little bit overthrown, and you're right in the right spot, like at the right time. It's like, and then taking it to the house. It's like, okay, well, would you have made a play like that like early on in your career? Like I look at some of my plays that I've made as well, and try to be like, oh, like there's no way I was making that type of play like my first year. But like, the more you see, the more you study, the more you realize that you don't always have to be like super wound up or super fast to get to your drop and stuff like that. I think that shows up on tape, and I think that's what I saw a lot, like from your big plays out there. And like I said, it just seemed like every week, like you were making a pick when you were on the field. Like I remember, I think it was maybe your first game back. Like we were watching, we all. I think it's safe to say we all watch each other play, because it's a small league, and you're going to be playing that team, right? That the other team's playing. So just doing film study and stuff like that. But I think you were playing Winnipeg. I don't know if that was your first game back in Winnipeg, and I think Strever like rolled out like weak or it was either weak or strong, but in the red zone, he threw the ball, and then you just came out of nowhere and picked the ball up, and I was like, you got to give it to him. Like the dude is just out there making plays. Like you can't say that he's just getting free interceptions or anything like that. Like he jumped the ball, jumped the route, and made the play.
Yeah, it's just, and like you said earlier, before the season started, I was watching some like super old BC from like my first year. And it wasn't just of me, it was like me and seeing a couple other guys as well. And it's like, you know, I'd say you get a scene from 2 year in quarters, like naturally people are gonna start getting high because they feel stressed about. Whereas I started to like evaluate, it's like, all right, well, how fast is the receiver actually running? Like, how much cushion do I actually need? How far is the throw going to be? You know what I mean? Like, paying attention to stuff like that kind of helped me a lot in slowing down and not necessarily getting out as fast and kind of understanding how the offense is actually trying to attack you.
Right. Yeah, it's just like that, taking that IQ to the next level at the end of the day, right? Like, I think that's definitely a big thing. But you've got that, like I said, you've got kind of that all-CFL stats. Like, what do you feel like is next for you? Like this upcoming season, what are you working on in your game? What are some of the goals that you set for yourself to, kind of reach the next level, both as, positional. Obviously we know it's a team game. Like that's the biggest thing is, the Grey Cup, but what are you kind of working on individually, this year?
I think communication can always be better. I actually left a few picks out there this year. I dropped a couple.
Man,
Not gonna lie.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I feel that. I feel it.
So just making sure, I capitalize when I do get the chance. You can't ever guarantee how many targets you're gonna get or how you're gonna get them, but just making sure I honestly capitalize when, getting better. Honestly, I feel like you try to get better in all aspects of your game. Like you can only project upwards, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, 100% like that. There's always things to work on. There's always ways to be better. Like, and I think the biggest thing, like, I think that I noticed in just things that I've learned, right? Like you learn a lot from those veteran players that you're with. Like you mentioned, TJ Lee, Gary Peters, Bro, Purifoy, like that's an all-star list of DBs that you had in the second year. Like for me, it was guys like, Cariel Brooks, who was an all-star, Jamal Roll, Tunde Adeleke, who was behind, Mike Daly, Cam Kelly. Like you learn from guys like that have, been there and played. Deontay Evans, another one, Grey Cup champs, all that sort of stuff. But like I think the good players are able to like glean information off people who have already kind of been there, done that, and then start to apply that to like their own games. And then you sort of see that translate, right? Like almost everything that you mentioned in your first year of things that you did are like, it almost reminds me exactly how my first year went. Like my special teams coach came up to me, I think the first day at training camp, Jeff Reinbold, who most will know he's a crazy special teams coach, but I love him. He taught me a lot of great stuff, during his time as our coach. But the first day of training camp, he came up to me and said the same exact thing. He said, listen, I'm giving you a chance to make this roster on special teams, like day one of training camp. I'm like, oh, okay, well, like I got to make, and in that moment, like, I'm just like, bro, like I'm going to make this team. Like, what are you talking about? But I don't think you realize like how hard it actually is to make a CFL team. Like just make the roster, right? Like there's only 45 spots. You got to think about all the guys that are coming back. And then on top of that, like you're the rookie, right? So it's like, there might only be like, honestly, I think there might only be like 2 to 5 probably spots for like the Canadian rookies that are coming in every year to like make the squad, right? So like kind of what you were saying, it's like that part resonated with me. And then like you said, you start mentioning all the vets that you got to play with. I'm like thinking about my story, and it's just like it's like the exact same thing. Like I tried to connect to all those vets early on and just like be around them as much as I could to try to just learn everything that they, all the knowledge that they had, right? Because you're talking guys that have played, at that point when I came in, 5 to 7 or 8 years in the CFL and have that veteran experience. So I don't know, was it similar to you, like when you came on, like it's like, I'm just gonna make this team, like it's gonna be easy, like, and then now you look back on it and how difficult it actually was?
Like my approach, like I first got there, I'm like, I need to make the team, and then when I kind of got them, like, well, I can make the team. You know what I mean? It's just like, and I'm trying to play, but it's just, you take that step back and you're like, damn, like you don't realize how many. I mean, it's different for you a little, not different, but it's similar in the sense that I don't know how many people when you first got to have how many like Canadians were playing on defense.
Shoot, only one. I think it was just two. Oh, two. It was Tunde was our starting safety, and then Ted Laurent was our starting D tackle. But yeah, I mean, really, the only opportunity was safety.
Right. So you're looking at it, you're like, well, now I have to beat out this person if I want to get on the field realistically. And then you start looking across the board, and it's like, all right, well, 7 Canadians got to play. How am I going to end up being one of these 7? You know what I mean? Because if you're being honest, like more times than not, it's only going to be 7.
Yeah.
If it can be more, it can be more. But most of the time, it's going to be 7.
Right. And it comes down to like, you may have an 8th Canadian that's that's good enough to start, maybe better than, that American that's playing. But like, if you don't have the depth behind him, like he's not going to play. Because like if that dude gets hurt and you're backing up the other Canadian, like, it's just like the team's not willing to take that risk. And I think the other thing too is there's a hierarchy, right? Like no different than when you get into college, like it's like, the restart, right? You become the rookie, like you got to earn your way back to the top. You don't just, most guys, I think in this league, like especially Canadian dudes, don't just come in and start right away because you're usually coming there to obviously learn the pro game, develop into a starter. Some guys, you could start earlier than others. And some you got to wait 2 or 3 years sometimes before you get your big break. But I think you look at just that part of it, and that's one of the biggest things. And then I think a lot of guys don't realize, like, okay, I think it's like 21 Canadians on the game day roster out of the total 45, and exclude the 3 quarterbacks, all that math. So you think about the guys that are already there, right? Like, you got to beat out. You're really fighting for spots 18, 19, 20, and 21 to make it on the roster. Like, I still remember to this day, right? For me, it was COVID training camp, and we didn't even have any preseason games, so I didn't even get to play a preseason game before my first ever like CFL game. Which I look back on now, I'm like, how did I even like go through with that? Because it just seemed normal to me at that time. But I remember I did really well during camp. Like, I mean, not fortunate enough for me, not fortunate enough for others, but fortunate enough for me. Tunde had kind of missed most of training camp. He kind of tweaked his hammy, and then Mike Daly also was dealing with some injuries. So like most of training camp, like I was running with the one. So like I got a lot of good reps, but those guys ended up getting healthy like right at the tail end of camp. And I just remember it being cut day, and like, again, in my head, like, I'm so delusional, like, oh yeah, I've made this team like outright, like I'm going to be on the active roster, yada, yada, yada. And I just remember Sean Burke I think he texted me and said, congrats, like you made the team, like you're on the active roster, but we don't know if you're going to dress for week 1 in Winnipeg. Like, you're going to travel, but we're still trying to figure out like the roster requirements. I'm like, okay, like whatever that means. And then again, like you get to game day and I look back on that now, I'm just like, dude, like I don't even know if I was actually going to play until, you get to that week and they're like, oh yeah, you're dressing, like you're on special teams. I think I was on like 2 special teams. I think it was on kickoff and kickoff and punt return. I wasn't on punt, I kind of was in and out with some different guys, but like that was my kind of, again, like welcome to the CFL, was in Winnipeg, the first game since, the COVID pandemic. And it was, we got our tails beat pretty good, but it was a cool experience. Like nonetheless, first CFL game.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. But hey, I appreciate you taking the time today for, coming on. We'll have to chop it up again soon. Hopefully, you don't make too many plays against us. I always tell it to everybody, I wish you the best. Like, obviously wish you the most health, but no plays against us. And I know you want the same from me. I know VA. I did a podcast with VA a couple months ago, and he said the same thing. Like, don't pick me off, man. I was like, hey, I'm gonna try to pick you off more. That's the goal, bro. But wishing you the best. Wishing you the best this season, and do your thing, man. And again, thanks for taking the time to come on today.
Absolutely, bro. Appreciate you having me on, man. Stay healthy. Same thing. Go ball out. Not too much against the Stamps, but that's all love at the end of the day, bro.
Yes, sir. For sure, man. Take it easy.